Detroit in 313. We're back. Stephen Will talking that Detroit Lions football. Before we get started, you know what to do. Bang that subscribe button and do not forget the bell icon so you don't miss any of our new content. Steve, what are we talking today?
Today was an interesting day for the Detroit Lions. We're starting to get into the absolute meat and potatoes of this NFL draft. In what do we got? What do we got left? 16 days, a little more than 2 weeks. We had the Detroit Lions had their local pro day today. Where they could bring in some local athletes, do a little workout, do a little visit, a little Q&A. There's some interesting names on this list.
Steve
A lot
Perkins
of
on that
kids,
list?
dude. They couldn't afford to get me in the building. First and foremost, we're talking six figures just to get me out of the house. If I'm being honest with you. Obviously, a lot of Michigan kids. I don't know why they call it a local pro day because I see people here from all kinds of schools. I mean, we got Darius Robinson on here. He's from Missouri. Some Kansas guys, some Texas A&M guys. I don't know why they call it a local pro day, but some interesting names nonetheless came to Allen Park today for a workout. So, who stuck out to you the most on this list?
Man, that's tough sailing. There's a couple, man. There's a couple. One that we haven't talked about that I think could be a late round gem is Jalen Harold from Michigan. He's somebody that I've seen in the comments a couple times. He's somebody that I've watched some film on, and we knew about him. We watched him all season, but he was a guy I was kind of surprised that they had him on the visit. And it's good to know that they're looking at him. So he'd be a guy that I keep an eye on in later rounds. What about you?
Mine was a name not that was on the list, but a name that wasn't on the list. Same school, Michigan, Zach Zinner, not on the list today. Now, I know he broke his leg in the Ohio State game, so I'm not exactly where he is in the rehab process. But at the very least, you could have brought him in for some Q&A, a little meet and greet, shake hands, bump elbows, ask some questions, break down some film. I think that's more valuable than any workout. You know what he can do on the field. You're just bringing him in to validate it. But I was a little surprised I didn't see his name on the list. They brought in, like 20 guys today. Yeah, that was one of the names I was very surprised I didn't see.
Yeah.
But a name that stuck out to me, this is a guy we've talked about quite a bit. Ruka Roa was on this list. A position of need in a way, a second round potential pick. When I texted you the list, you just said, ooh, Rook's on there. And again, he's a Michigan kid from, I can't remember where he's from, Southfield or no, that's Darius Robinson, but he's from somewhere in Michigan.
I know he went to Trillium Academy because my buddy was telling me that he taught him. So he went to Trillium Academy for I think one season, and then I'm not sure what he did after that. So
yeah, but college wise, he went to Clemson, so he is kind of a local kid. But I like seeing him on the list because that's someone we've talked about. A lot of people very high on Braden Fisk. I'm not going to call Ruka Roa a poor man's Braden Fisk. I like both of them. I probably would just prefer Braden, but Rook's no joke either. So when I saw his name, my ears kind of perked up a little bit.
You know what I think about those two real quick?
Who, Braden and Rook?
Yeah, they're just two polar opposites, man. Like Braden is going to beat you with speed. Rook is going to beat you with some violent hands. And I think that Rook is the kind of young man that he's still ascending up. Only played football a few years, coming from being a basketball player initially. So I think I would just excited to see what he turns into after we draft him at pick 61. Oh, shoot. Yeah. Brad, I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, there's some names on here I definitely got to do a little research on. Like there's some kids from Eastern Michigan. There's a corner from Kansas, Callan Gervin. I'm not 100% familiar with him. So a couple kids from Toledo. A couple guys we got to do some research on. So we're going to talk mostly about who we're just more familiar with.
Yeah.
Roman Wilson, also on the list. I think he could be a sneaky good pick somewhere in the mid rounds. How do you feel about Rome?
I think everyone who he gets in front of talks about how good he is, man. He was phenomenal at the Senior Bowl. He just exceeds expectations, man. I'll be honest. I didn't think that he was going to be ascending the way that he's ascending right now, man. I thought that he was going to kind of be like some of the other guys that have come out, like Ronnie Bell. It's going to be a later round pick. He probably get to a team and probably contribute a little bit, but we're looking at the long ride, maybe 2-3 seasons before he became one of those guys that's like a role player, one of that Josh Reynolds, that Donovan Peoples-Jones, just a support guy. Roman Wilson is looking like a guy who, if he gets in the right situation, he might catch on and be a solid number 2 option, or maybe even a number 1, man. I'm excited for him.
I've said this before, and I had some not nice things said to me on Twitter when I said this. I think Roman Wilson might have the best hands in college football.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
I know, but I'm going to stand on it.
Hmm.
The way I don't think I've ever seen him catch the ball with his body. I think he goes, he snags it. I was rewatching the Alabama game where he just made some phenomenal catches, all extending his arms, catching the ball with his hands. I think he's about as sure-handed in this draft as it gets. He does not drop passes. He's got great speed. I won't say elite speed, but he's got great speed. Comes from a championship caliber coach, Jim Harbaugh, won a national championship. Like, you know, he knows how to do all the little things on and off the football field. I really like Roman Wilson somewhere in, I would say for me, I think he's playing himself into the second round. But for me, I don't want to take him in the second round. I think round 3, I would be very comfortable with him, depending on what we do in rounds 1 and 2. But I would not be shocked if I see Roman Wilson get called on the second round.
I think he's going to get called round 2, probably late round 2, but I think he's going to get called round 2. Worst case, early round 3. He's playing himself right up into, you know, the top 20, the top 20 conversation. When I'm talking about those 20 receivers that I like, he's in that top 20. I think the only thing that's really hurting him this year, it is a deep wide receiver draft this year. So again, cheering for the guy, man, cheering for him. If he's in that Honolulu Blue, man, I'll be excited, especially if it somehow ended up in the 3rd round.
You ever watch the Joel Klatt podcast?
Every now and then.
He did something. I can't remember what day it was, just a couple days ago. I was watching it, and he did the top 50 players in the draft, and I believe he had Roman Wilson at number 50 overall. So that kind of goes to say a little something. And Joel Klatt, I respect his opinion. That guy knows some college football. He watches it religiously. Obviously, he works for college football, does a lot of play-by-play analysis. I'm not going to say what he says, you know, what his opinion is the way, the truth, and the light. But I will say he definitely, you know, caught my attention and maybe got me thinking, Roman Wilson, top 50 player in the draft. I was like, I don't know about that, but I also wouldn't shock me. I don't know if I would rank him in my own personal top 50, not trying to be a homer, but yeah, like you said, this is a deep wide receiver class, especially in the first round. There's going to be 6, maybe 7 wide receivers taken in the first round. So a lot of guys, and then there's guys in the second round we like too. So yeah, this is a very deep class.
Yeah, I agree.
There's another name out there, William, on this list of Detroit Lions pro day workouts that I feel like we just keep talking about. It just keeps popping up. He's like a gnat at a barbecue. You just can't get rid of him.
I feel like I might know where you're going with
it. Darius Robinson.
Yes, sir.
From Missouri.
Southfield guy.
I told you today what I was going to do. What's I texted you when I texted you this list.
Watch that film.
I said, I'm going to take some time today, and I'm going to dedicate some time and watch a little bit more game film on him. And my opinion hasn't changed.
I was about to say, can I guess how you feel?
It hasn't changed. I'm not in love with it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But I could be okay with it. And apparently there's an Amazon driver dropping something off at my house. If you can hear the dog barking, you know, he's making his daily rounds to the Perkins household. I can only imagine what's been ordered. I have no idea.
A basket, most likely.
We get those at the home goods store. But Darius Robinson, look, I don't like it. I don't love it. I'll be okay with it. Let me just get that on the record.
Yeah.
But I am sick and tired. Every time we talk Darius Robinson, someone says that he's a Josh Paschal, John Kaminsky 2.0. I don't see that. I think in the run game, they're very, very similar. But when it's 3rd and 8 and I need a pass rush, I think Darius Robinson is better than both Kaminsky and Paschal combined. Well, not combined. I shouldn't have said combined. But I do think he is a better pass rusher on known passing situations. He will be able to put pressure on the quarterback. At the very least, flush him out of the pocket, maybe force him over to Aiden Hutchinson's side. I think you will see more pressures from Darius Robinson. Is he sexy enough for pick 29 for me? Just isn't.
Steve, by more pressures, do you mean more than none?
Yes.
So, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem there. So, can we talk a little bit about why people keep saying that Darius Robinson, Josh Reynolds, or not Josh Reynolds, Josh Pascal, and John Kaminsky are all the same type of player? I don't agree with those statements when people say them.
I think I have and I don't want to speak for anybody else, guys. So if you get in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong, but my guess would be that they have that hybrid sense to them, in a sense of they can both go down and play DT, or they can bump out to end when we're talking about Pascal and Kaminsky. And that's something that Darius Robinson will be able to do. But I do agree with you. Darius Robinson is going to offer a little bit more in the pass rush game, and there's a potential that he could ascend up and maybe turn into JJ Watt, apparently, because that's what I've been hearing in the streets. You know what I mean? That's what I've been hearing in the streets. We're
Stop.
joking, guys. We're joking. But there's been people that said that's an inside joke, kind of. It's, you probably seen it in the comments if you guys go through the comments. But
I'll explain the
people were,
inside joke real quick. I was watching something, a video on Darius Robinson's tape, and someone compared him to JJ Watt, and I almost came unglued.
yeah.
I don't like comparing players to current NFL players. You're not going to compare a guy who has nowhere near the athleticism that JJ Watt has, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that, he's a guy that definitely has some upside, man. But what I worry about him is the floor, because the floor could be he just ends up being a decent D tackle. That's the floor to me. And if we end up, you're going to go through this draft and you're going to be like, man, look what Byron Murphy's doing.
Mhm.
Look what Johnny Newton's doing. You know what I mean? Look what Liatu Latu's doing. Look what Jared Verse is doing. And that's my worry, is we're gonna look back potentially and say, man, we took Darius Robinson on potential, and there was some other guys out there. But that's the risk of the draft. You gotta evaluate your players the best that you can and select who you think is the guy. Nobody is 100% sure thing other than Steve Perkins. So and
Bingo.
he's not in the draft.
Still available too.
No, I'm not letting him draft you. But he's straight Detroit didn't only guy. Sorry, unavailable. But that's part of it, man. But he's just not the direction that I would go either, man. Unless he slid. Now, I've been seeing people talking about him potentially sliding more and more and more as this thing continues to develop. Now, he's not sliding to 61, but if you love him and maybe you go receiver or a different direction, I don't want to give too much, man, because as we've evaluated this talent, watched all this film, talked about it, talked in the comments, I'm starting to get more and more locked in. We said it a couple weeks ago or maybe a week ago. We're starting to get locked. Now I'm really starting to get dialed in with where I think we're going, and we're going to save that educated guess for our mock draft, and maybe leak maybe one or two right before we release our mock. But I just don't see that being the pick at 29, or if we go up and bump up and select somebody or bump back. But I don't know. I'm not Brad Holmes.
I am about 90% locked in on what I want at 29. It's really the only thing that's going to change my mind is who's available. And I'm
Yes.
not going to share that with everyone today, but yeah, it's getting dangerously close. I'm ready to do a mock draft. I could probably do it today and be very content on draft day, but I'm going to give it some time.
Yeah.
Never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen on draft day, but we are getting ready.
Yeah.
Are there any other names that kind of stuck out to you? Like I like some, also real quick, I like some of these Michigan offensive linemen. I said Zach Zinner wasn't mentioned. Trevor Keegan, Carson Barnhart. I like Trevor Keegan. He could play a little bit of center. That might be a player we could look at later in the rounds. Maybe, I know we don't have a fourth, but if something happens and we acquire a fourth, that might be a guy I look forward to come in and play center. One of the best offensive lines in football the last 3 years, Trevor Keegan, Carson Barnhart. I'm good with either one of those for a little depth. Our O-line's very, very good. We got an old tackle, 2 old guards, and an old center. The only thing that's really sure for the next 10 years is probably Penei Sewell.
Yep.
Fingers crossed, get that contract done. But other than that, we're going to have to slowly start addressing that issue, and it might start happening this year in the draft, drafting for some depth. So those were 2 other names that kind of stuck out for me. But other than that, a lot of Michigan kids we're very familiar with. Jalen Harrell, Michael Barrett, who spent, 12 years at Michigan somehow. I think he was in Rich Rod's recruiting class somehow. I'm not really sure how that worked out, but it seemed like he was there for 18 years. I think he got his doctorate degree.
You're out of line. You're out of line. He did
I'm
have
not knocking him. I like Michael Barrett, but it
he
just
did have
felt
a
like he
little
was at Michigan forever.
he did have a little gray in his beard. But one guy that stood out to me, man, that we did a show on him. I'm super high on him. Third round or later is Javon Sullivan. I love that they had him in for a visit. I think that he is a guy that could potentially, if they're at the right time, he could be a guy that could come in and help immensely. A couple people have put it in the comments about James Houston and why are we going to draft a guy if we got James Houston and stuff. I think that he is a similar body type than James Houston. I think that he has more pass rush moves though. Not to say that James Houston isn't going to take a step forward. Who knows what he's going to come out with like this year, but I think from what I've seen out of James Houston so far and what I've seen when I watch film out of Javon Sullivan, I like his game, man, and I think that he is somebody that could help us out on third and longs and third down situations immediately.
Yeah. So, guys, today we just kind of recapped some of the bigger names. Again, there was about 20 names on this list. We kind of went over who we're a little bit just more familiar with. We're going to do some digging on these other guys and see if they're, real candidates for, wherever Brad sees fit. So leave some comments down below. Hit that like button. If you're new here, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later with some more content.
Peace.